Alright, what's going on YouTube? This is Keith with Less Magic, More Gathering, and we've got another deck tech for you and some gameplay we're going to do today. Hope you guys had a good Thanksgiving. Let's take a look at the deck. This is... I've got this split up into two different decks. I've got the deck tech version that has all the cards, and then I've got the version that I'm going to do for the gameplay part of this that doesn't have all of these cards. This says I don't have 3 ops. I have 3 of the other ops, so we'll just ignore that. I don't have Gift of Paradise. I don't have 3 of them, and I'm out of the uncommon wild cards. So while we work on trying to get some of those, we are using is it New Horizons? I don't know. We'll take a look in a minute. But we've got another card that does essentially the same thing, only instead of gaining 3 life, you put a +1/+1 counter on a creature that you control. But since we don't have any creatures, it just gives us some ramp option. So we'll look at that in a minute. I've only got 2 of the Deafening Clarion, I've only got 2 Primal Amulets, and I've only got 2 Thousand-Year Storms. So this will be the deck tech that we're going to look at. The deck is based around Thousand-Year Storm. I've seen a few other builds. I've seen red-blue, I've seen red-blue-black, I've seen red-blue-green. Ours is a 5-color build because we're weird. The land base is absolutely bonkers, and it actually works out pretty well. We don't have any of the really high-cost stuff. We don't have any Omniscience. We don't have any Brass's Bounty. We don't have any of those, expensive, high-cost, high-reward cards. We've got a lot of cheap cards with good effects, especially when they're multiplied, and especially if we can get a Primal Amulet in play. So we're running 3 copies of Thousand-Year Storm. We're also, as a way to support it, we're going to run 3 copies of Primal Amulet. This is, most of the time, you don't want to flip it. You just leave it. It's a may remove the counters and transform it ability, so most of the time we're just going to leave it so that we can get as many spells cast as possible. And everything else in the deck is just meant to be something other. Oh, wait. Gift of Paradise is another one. That's just going to help us ramp. Thousand-Year Storm is a 6-cost spell, so even being able to get that out 1 turn sooner is going to help us out. Everything else in the deck is a spell that we're going to use to multiply and multiply and multiply and multiply until we can do enough damage to defeat our opponent. So we're going to start out in the 1-drop slot. We've got 3 copies each of Opt and Shock. These are typically Opt is going to be used as like the first spell that you cast each turn, and Shock is going to kind of be the last spell you cast each turn. Opt is good to... It's cheap to get things started, get you some more card draw. Sometimes, it really just depends on how the game's playing out. You're going to want to wait and hold on to your Opt and use it for something else. But like I said, you'll see in the gameplay, it really just depends on what's going on. So, those are our 1-drops. 2-drops, we've got Revitalize, gains 3 life, draw a card. We've got 3 copies of Radical Idea. That's a draw card, and it has Jumpstart. We've got 3 copies of Sovereign's Bite. This is a really good finisher in this deck, because if you've got your Primal Amulet out, and you cast this for 1, if it's your 3rd or 4th spell cast each turn, or on that turn, you can do 9, 12, up to 15, 18 damage, and gain that life back too, so it's a really good finisher. Same with Lightning Strike, just being able to crash through and do that 12, 15, 18 damage. It's really nice. We've got 3 copies of Ritual of Rejuvenation. Gain 4 life, draw a card. A lot of these cards, I think everything except for Shock and Lightning Strike and Sovereign Bite, which are our damage dealing cards, everything else is going to draw us more cards, so it's really good to multiply those so that you're drawing a new handful of cards, so that if for some reason you don't have the mana to finish your opponent off, you'll have a handful of cards for the next turn. Deafening Clarion. This one, you're never going to use the creatures you control gain lifelink ability because we have no creatures in this deck. But sometimes, especially against an aggro or, you know, a big creature, if you're playing somebody and they get a Carnage Tyrant or something like that out, you're just going to need to be able to put that in your 2, 3, or 4 slot when you're casting spells so that you can wipe their board, just in case you're not able to finish them off. Or if you're up against an aggro or a weenie deck or a token deck, you can use this as your first spell just to clear their board. It just, like I said, it really depends on what you're playing against, but it's always good to have just in case you need it. And finally, we've got 3 copies of Pirate's Pillage. This is another one that's really good when it's multiplied because it's going to give you treasures and cards. So if you get multiple copies of Thousand Year Storm and you start casting Pirate's Pillage, then you're going to be able to, you know, get those treasures back in lumps, and you'll be able to cast a lot more spells, and a lot of these spells are going to draw you cards. So it just kind of chain reactions and lets you keep going. And that's really what we're trying to do in this deck to kind of finish things off. Now, our land base, like I said, is kind of crazy. We didn't use any of the rare lands. Everything we've got in here is a common land, I believe. Yeah, we're using Guild Gates, we're using Timber Gorge, Meandering River, and Gateway Plaza. Everything else is a Guild Gate or a basic land. So let's go up here and take a look. We've got 2 plains, we've got 2 islands, we have 1 single swamp, we've got 3 mountains, and 1 single forest. This deck has 3 green spells and 3 black spells, so we don't need a ton of those lands, but we do want to make sure that we can use them if we need to. So we've got those basics in there, and then we've got 2 copies of Meandering River, 3 copies of Is It Guildgate, 2 copies of Golgari Guildgate, we've got 2 Timber Gorge, 2 Boros Guildgate, and 4 copies of Gateway Plaza. I really like Gateway Plaza in this deck, since it is a 5-color deck. Even though you have to pay for this when it comes in, usually that's not too big of a deal because we've got the cards that are going to gain us life back. And I've noticed a lot of times in the gameplay with this, our life total gets down pretty far, but then we're really able to stabilize with Thousand Year Storm and some of the life gain spells we've got. And a lot of times at the beginning of the game, you're just going to be casting, you know, you're going to be casting Opt and Radical Idea and these life gain draw cards, just so that you can get to your Thousand Year Storm and your Primal Amulet to hopefully be able to drop those on curve. But it's really dependent on how the game's playing out. If your opponent's not doing much, then a lot of times we can just sit back and let things happen. Where our worst matchup is probably against the Control, where they're trying to not let us cast spells, you know, the counter magic. So it's not a good matchup there, but everywhere else, you know, everything that it's played against, it's played pretty well. So it's actually pretty competitive, and it doesn't require a lot of the hard work it does to use your big mana spells that I was talking about at the beginning. You don't have to wait for 10 mana to cast an Omniscience that's in some of these other Thousand Year Storm decks. You don't have to wait for a bunch of mana to be able to cast a Brass's Bounty. Even though that's a good reward, sometimes it's just a pain in the butt to get to that point. So this is the build we went with, and we're going to take a look at it in some gameplay here in just a second. So stick around. I'll be right back. All right, we're just going to jump right in here to some gameplay with our modified version of the Thousand Year Ramp. I don't have all the cards on Arena, and I don't get a big chance to sit down and just grind for cards very often, so we had to make some changes. But that's okay. We'll see what happens. We can cast all this in time, so I think I'm going to keep it. Because it does have good... It's got card draw, it's got damage. It's kind of got what we need here, so... And these Gateway Plazas, like I said in the deck tech, I really like them in this deck. Like, we won't be able to cast our turn 2 spell, but we will be able to cast everything in the deck, since we will have these Gateway Plaza's in play. Now I will be able to shock. I can shock their Lava Runner if need be. Next turn, we're going to take one from it, and I think that's okay for now. That's a good sign. So we'll play another one of those. Pay for it with white. And we'll pass the turn. I almost don't want to waste the shock, because we're only taking 1 damage from the Lava Runner. If he starts casting, he's probably waiting for me to play some spells so that he can get some instants and sorceries in his graveyard, but he may end up just going straight to my noggin. There's a Drake. 4-0. 0-4 Drake. I think the Drake's much more of a concern than the Lava Runner, so I may hold out so that if I need to, I can Deafening Clarion and then shock. So if that's the plan, we will just go with the Guild Gate, and that'll leave us up shock and a Radical Idea if things turn sour. We've got enough life gain in the deck that if need be, we can come back from this. These few points of damage from the Lava Runner. Kind of want to save the Radical Idea, especially if we're only going to take 1 point of damage. I think I'm going to save it until we can get our 1,000-Year Storm down. Hopefully it can resolve. I don't know if he's playing counter magic in his Izzet deck or not. So we can cast 1,000-Year Storm next turn. I'm going to try to get rid of his creatures and find out if he's got counter magic. Because if he's holding some counter spells, then this would be a good time to use them. So he didn't have counterspell. That's good. And that also makes it so that he can't return my 1,000-Year Storm to my hand unless he happens to be holding on to another one. And now he's tapped out. So that really worked out pretty well. So next turn we can Radical Idea to draw a card, then we can Radical Idea to draw 2 more cards, then we can Lightning Strike to do 6 damage to his Drake and 3 damage to his face. There's some other options. We'll see what we draw. I think that's going to depend. If we were to draw into a Primal Amulet right now, I think we'd probably go ahead and play it while his Drake is pretty small. And that would really make it so that we would have a good chance of being able to go off. Now, I guess we play it. We can go off another time. Yeah, we'll just wait. We could have cast that and drew some cards. We still can, I guess, on their turn. So, we'll see what happens. He made his Drake a 0-4 again. And we're gonna make him use his dispersal on his stuff. Or maybe, let's see. We're gonna draw some cards off this anyway, before it goes back to our hand. This will hopefully set us up better for future turns. It's on the board and we have a primal amulet, so we may as well go ahead and play some spells and take advantage of those cards while they're there. So we'll be able to draw 2 cards, and we took out his Electromancer. So that was actually a good set of draws. Now we are going to have to take a turn off to recast our 1,000-Year Storm. But then the turn after, we can draw 2 cards, gain a lot of life back with our Sovereign's Bite. We're not going to, hopefully, I don't know, there may be a way that he could kill us on our next turn, but we may be able to go off and take him out next turn. See what happens. Let's not get our hopes up yet. He's digging for answers. We'll see if he returns our 1,000-Year Storm to our hand again. We will take 5. So we're going to skip the Gateway Plaza. We're actually going to use that as a discard to jumpstart on our radical ideas. Yeah, I think we can kill him this turn unless he's got some kind of counter magic. We should be able to take him out. And that's where the Primal Amulet is super helpful, because normally we'd only be able to cast 3 of these spells, but since we have the Primal Amulet, we can cast up to 6. We only need 7 copies of Sovereign's Bite to take him down, so... we will decline the transformation. Now, just in case my math was wrong... no, it's not. Let's go ahead and Radical Idea some more. We'll discard our Plaza. Oh, auto taps may be getting the best of me here, though. No, I'm still okay. I'm still okay. And if we happen to draw into an island, a blue source that comes in untapped, we'll be even better off. That works too. Decline that again. I don't know if he knows he's dead, but he is definitely dead. And I don't know what's wrong with the timer, but I have noticed that his timer's running right now, and it's done this a few times to me on Arena here, so I don't know what the problem is. Target player loses 3 life. Kadabow. So we'll do this. We'll get a bunch of copies. We'll cast another one, and we'll win this game. Target a player. Badow. So this was 5-color 1,000-Year Storm. He's doing math right now and determining that he is not yet dead. And then this will hit the stack, and it should prompt the concede. That will do it. So as you can see, having the Primal Amulet with the 2 drops works really well. There's a good combo there. And it's a lot of fun. This is, for being a deck that most people are going to refer to as jank garbage, it actually does pretty well. It's got a lot of ways to gain life and help you stabilize. I'm not going to play any more games. I really wish I had all the cards for this deck, and eventually, you know, I'll keep grinding and I'll get all the cards, but that was a good example there. I'm glad that happened on the first game after the deck tech, so I didn't have to do a bunch of losing games just to be able to show you how it was supposed to work. But that's the deck. That's how it's supposed to work. Went off on the first try, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you get a chance to put this one together and try it out, let me know if you'd make any specific changes. We didn't use any of our ramp in that particular game, so there may be a better option to get rid of the green or run a different green spell. Maybe an instant or sorcery that lets us go and grab lands, things like that. So I know there's other options, but this one's worked well for me. I hope you enjoyed the deck tech, and we'll see you next time. Like I said before, hope you had a good Thanksgiving. Enjoy the rest of your Black Friday, and get some good rest this weekend. And we'll see you next week. Deuces. Hey, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, go down below and find that subscribe button. Press it and the notification bell so that you'll know when we post new videos. If you've got some feedback, follow that arrow to the comment section and let us know what you think. See you next time.